Hello, dear people. Hello, dear people. I'm actually only 2 minutes late today. Yay, I did good. All right. Let me type in hello. Well, I just lost it. Okay. All right. Hello, people. Oof. Okay. Okay. Hi, Michelle. Hi, sweetie. Hopefully you can hear me. Good. I'm glad you can hear me. I'm jotting down a few notes. Michelle, do you ever get the feeling I have a kind of crazy, hectic life at times? Well, Mark's off at Lowe's buying a new wash machine because currently our sheets and towels are in a wash machine full of water and the wash machine won't work. I know, what's new? Isn't that the truth, honey? And he has got a limited amount of time to try to get a new wash machine and get it put in place. And then, I hate to even say this out loud, my new little bird, I was feeding him this morning and she scooted out of her cage and she went into the other bird's cage, which wasn't a problem. And I opened the cages and faced them to each other so she could come back in her own cage when she wants. But I totally forgot the dogs were loose. And evidently, when I was busy taking a shower, the dogs played with her. And she's alive, but she's in shock. And it's been a rough day. So I'm here, but I'm hanging on by the thinnest thread. So, but I kind of thought I could use some time talking to Michelle. Oh, what a life. What a life. But anyway, I'm jotting down the notes that I'm going to talk about. I know. Oh, God, I have cried a mile today. But I don't see any blood or anything. Now, whether they put a little too much pressure on her with a paw, I don't know. But all her tail feathers have been plucked out. So right now, she's at least very scared and probably hurting. And I'm not talking to the dogs right now. I can't believe they did that. But, I just didn't even think. Mark said, I was in the room and I didn't think either. Oh, Melissa. Oh, that's the nicest thing you could say, Melissa, because I love my babies. And when one of them gets hurt, it kills me. Thank you, hon. Thank you. But I've got a heating pad on her cage to keep her warm, and she's in the quiet, darkened guest room, and hopefully she'll just come out of this, and she's going to be real scared. But hi, Bonnie. We were just talking that my new little birdie, who was doing so beautifully and loved me dearly and gave me kisses and all this, it was one of those mornings I was running around like crazy, and she got out of the cage when I went to feed her, and she went into Finney's cage, my other bird, but I forgot to put the dogs away. And so after I took my shower, I came back in, and her tail feathers are scattered across the floor, and she was hanging under an electric cord, just trembling. And the dog was just looking at her, but obviously she had been put through a lot, and I don't see any damages to her, besides all her tail feathers have been plucked out. But she's in shock, and she's in her cage, and she's in the dark, and I put a heating pad on top of it, because they say if they go into shock, you've got to keep them warm. And when I go in, now she opens her eyes and she'll kind of look at me, but I think it's going to be slow to try to get her out of this fear and shock. But I feel horrible because I just forgot I was in such a hurry to get a shower and get my day going, and I forgot the dogs were out and she is loose. So I won't be doing that again, let me tell you. Oh. The other day when I had her out, I put the dogs in my room with the gate. Oh, thank you. Well, Finney, when I first had him, he had one of those episodes, but I don't think he was as shocky. Maybe because she's so young. I don't know. But anyway, and you could tell they didn't want to hurt her. They just wanted to see her, and evidently she fluttered. They'd use their paw on her feathers to try to stop her, and it would pull out a feather. And oh, God, it's really upsetting. But thank you. And then the washing machine. We got so much going on, and Mark puts all of our sheets in it, and the washing machine, the little transmission thing on the washing machine broke. So now we have a washing machine full of wet, dirty sheets, full of water, and it won't drain or anything. Hi, Melissa. We missed you last week. We missed you. So Mark is up at Lowe's. I found the one Lowe's that had the washing machine I wanted in stock. Yeah, they have the emergency vet, but one of the things I read on the bird site, because I immediately started doing a lot of research on Google, they said the biggest problem if you rush them to the vet too soon, the extra shock of putting them in the car, driving them to the vet, getting into the vet, then seeing the vet, it's too much for the shock they're in, and they die. So they said the best thing is to keep the bird quiet. There's no bleeding, no open wounds that I see. And they said the best thing is then just to keep the bird quiet, calm, and warm. So, and then if the bird's still the same tomorrow, I will definitely take her to the vet. So, but she was turning into the cutest little thing. Well, I've always known that birds are prone to having heart attacks easily, and the fear of something can be as dangerous to them. The trauma, the fear, without any physical injuries, can kill them. So I kind of sorry, I thought about, should I cancel the live stream? Because I was on the phone with my daughter, Becky, just crying, but I thought, no, I think I need to talk to y'all. And get on with stuff and talk about quilting and get my mind off of it. I mean, let's be honest, it's been a tough week. I have PTSD. And I went off to go get my prescriptions. And this is from when I was a childhood and when I was married. And I went off to get my prescriptions, and I was listening on NPR that they said that people with PTSD are being, thanks, Michelle, that people with PTSD are being triggered by the hearing. And on top of it all, yes, I went through date rape. So it's been a tough week. And that's why I haven't been on the site. Plus, I'm trying to get all of the paperwork done for the retreat, and there's 35 ladies coming, and yesterday I worked 12 hours straight on the computer and the Excel program trying to get all of the invoices sent out. But anyway, I was glad to hear on NPR, it helped validate the irritation and the anxiety I've been feeling. I've had very good counseling, and so luckily that helps. But if any of you understand, I know Michelle knows about PTSD in her family. And when you're triggered, you're triggered. And it's just a matter of realizing you've been triggered and convincing yourself you're safe. So any of you out there, if you're going through this, I heard there've been a whole lot more, 100 and almost 200% increase in calls to the rape crisis hotline. And I'm very happy to hear that, because I don't know, you know, we were raised, you don't tell. The consequences of telling were often worse than the effects. So, but anyway, we are going to plow forward, because one thing I know, women are resilient. And you know what? I truly believe women are the stronger species on this earth. They're the stronger sex. And we do wonderful things. We give birth to the next generation. We nurture. We create. We put the fun in so many things. We keep traditions alive. And we take care of those we love. So we are something else. So today I have a few things. I haven't done the giveaway on the website, and I need to get Bonnie's address, which I'll get in private with her later to get her address, because I got it down here and I want to mail it. And but first thing I'll talk about is I cut my binding for my Halloween quilt. And I didn't used to. I always forgot about binding when I was working on quilts. And back before I could quilt them, I didn't even think about it. And so I've got plenty of quilts that I have no matching binding for. So I've learned now. In fact, Ann Harris, I want to give her credit, a shout out for Ann, because she said, always make your binding soon as you make your top, or cut it out while you're cutting out your top. So I have cut 7 widths of fabric, and I just wanted to tell you that I cut my binding 2.5 inches because I want plenty of binding there. I cut it 2.5 inches. Then I now, Michelle, I'll give you a shout out, because Michelle was big on piecing your binding at an angle. And I used to always do it the cheap way and just butt it, and it would create a big lump. I now do it on an angle. So thanks, Michelle. And you can look up on YouTube how to put it in an angle, or I can always do a later date show. But I join all my bindings in one long piece, and I stitch my seams open to help it to be extra flat. Not stitch, I press my seams open. And then after I press the joined seams open, then I fold it in half and press again. And this gives me an 1.25 inch wide binding, because you stitch it to the front, 1/4 inch in from the raw edges. Then you fold that finish edge over to the back, and you do an invisible slip stitch down. I know Eleanor Burns can put her binding on by machine. And I mean the whole thing, even where you sew through on the back, because she makes sure when she folds it that it extends a little past on the back. But I have been sewing since I was 22 years old. And for those of you who are good at math, that's 40 years. And I cannot, for the life of me, stitch and know that something's caught on the back. I just can't. I'll miss little bits, and then I hate it, because if you ever notice, then you have stop and start stitching marks, or you have to take out enough stitches that it doesn't just look like you shoved it to put it back under and stitch it. So Those of you who can do Eleanor Burns' complete binding by machine, good job. I'm proud of you, but I do not possess that skill. So what I do is sit in my recliner watching TV at night, and I slip stitch the back of the binding. And one day I'll show you how I do that. I know I have it on one of my videos, and but I just want to let you know I cut my binding out. So I'm being very, very good. And now I will need to piece this. If we have time today, I'll show you how to piece it on an angle. All right, so I took care of the binding. And then, oh, Patty Chamberlain's here. Oh, Amy Sadler. I think that's a new name. Erie, Pennsylvania. You're way up there, almost near Canada, aren't you? I never realized how far Erie is. It's not something you, from North Carolina, you just hop up there. So, hi, Amy. And like the back, I do my binding after the top is done. Good. Okay. Then take the fabric to the store and match things. Now, that's smart because you know what? Sometimes you don't know what fabric will really look good once you get all the border piece. So good for you. But I'm just glad that you do it at around the same time so you don't, forget and then the fabric's gone. So, I do love hand binding, just like you, Bonnie. It's very relaxing. Bonnie normally does 2.5. Oh, she's got an AccuQuilt. Ooh, this is a fancy woman. Yeah, that would be nice because you could just cut strips after strips 2.5 inches. And some people try to cut their binding 2.25, but then, boy, I just don't like the stress of wondering if it's going to work or fit or if I have it just right. So 2.5 does beautifully. So anyway, I want to introduce y'all Cooper Ladane. I don't know if you can see that cute picture. That's Cooper, her Harlequin Great Dane that she rescued. He's the size of a horse. I mean, he's huge and as sweet as the day is long. He is the calmest, gentlest love you'd ever want to see. And I'm so excited because Melissa is coming to our retreat. Yay, yay, yay. In fact, I said, Melissa, you got to sit by me. And her friend Michelle, who were in 2 of my classes that I taught and who were absolute joys and excellent quilters. So I'm very, very excited that Melissa and Michelle are coming to the retreat. So anybody else that wants to come to the retreat, please come. I know, is it November yet? So I was going to tell you a little bit about what it takes to run a retreat. A heck of a lot of work, let me tell you. This time of year, I'm like, why do I do this? But then I get there in November and it's like, oh, I know why I do this. I love this. So we have our retreat at Camp Walter Johnson, and it's in Denton, North Carolina, and it's owned by the Salvation Army. There's a sweet story about this camp. And, oh, good point, Bonnie. You can get 2.5-inch strips in pre-cuts, and then your binding, it's the perfect width. It takes ibuprofen and caffeine. So, oh, wait, you should meet Melissa in person. Melissa is fun, and she loves to laugh. And you know what? She reminds me of you, Bonnie, because she's smart as a whip. So she's really cool. I like her. Okay, so it's held at a camp called Camp Walter Johnson. It is the most beautiful. It was a farm left by a farmer named Walter Johnson who didn't have any children. And he wanted to leave his farmland, which is on the water, a lake, valuable farmland. He wanted to leave it to a good cause. And when he had been in the war, I think it was World War II, when he had been in the war and was feeling very far from home and lonely and all, the Salvation Army helped him tremendously just the way they were there and the way they treated our soldiers. So when it came time for him to bequeath his land, he decided he wanted to give it to the Salvation Army. So that's a sweet, sweet story. The farm is being used to give summer camps to very deserving children. Children, some of whom that's the only meal they get that day at the camp. So it is beautiful. It is beautiful there. And the building we meet in has a huge cathedral ceiling and is about 80 by 100 feet. So it's huge. At one end, we eat our meals, which the staff cooks. At the other end, we sew. And we have that huge cathedral ceiling. That end wall is all windows. And you can go out onto a nice big porch, and they've got benches there that you can rest on. Then beyond that is a pond with fountains in it. And then down a ways through the woods is the lake. And I take my camper, and so I camp while I'm there. And as much as I love people, I need to have some quiet time on my own. So when I go back to my camper, it's like, that's my time. And that way I can be on during, the actual times we're all together. But it's a very safe, beautiful place. Cabins, trails through the woods. They've kept it as wooded as they possibly could. The camps they do for the kids during the summer, they've got the pond with paddle boats. They've got a beautiful pool complex. They have lodges that these kids stay in, and they have an outdoor amphitheater. They have go-kart tracks. They have all kinds of sports things. They've got a huge, beautiful chapel. And it's just such a wonderful, beautiful, safe, happy environment. And they're able to reach so many children. And, I know what it was like to be a child and need attention or love or understanding, and they give it. So it's really, really wonderful. They only charge us $74 a night. And if you share, then you pay $37.50. And the rooms don't have TVs, but there's a lounge that has a TV, and they have a kitchen in each lounge. But the rooms are clean and nice. They're not hotel rooms, but they're clean, nice room with each has their own bathroom. And I've stayed there. So it's very comfortable, very nice. And I love that they have a few campsites. And so that's where I stay. And it's a good little hike to the dining hall where we do our sewing and eating. But I need the exercise. So it's $74 a night for the room, and then only other thing you pay for are the meals. And the meals are $10, $12, and $14, and you decide which meals when you want them. So they have coffee and tea and lemonade and water and all stuff during the day that you can get. The nicest thing is we each get our own table, like 3 feet by 6 feet. So, because I've been to retreats and classes where you get 30 inches of space, but we use every table we can get our hands on. And we're going to do a quilt show, and we're going to do a block contest. Oh my God, I got to tell you, 2 or 3 years ago, we did a block challenge, and they divided into 6 teams. And all of this is volunteer. I mean, we don't set any schedule for you. This is your retreat, and you set the schedule. So we had 6 teams of four or five people each. It was hilarious. Some of us laughed so hard. It was a good thing that we wore protection, and because it was hilarious. So we're going to do that again. We have a quilter's bingo. So you bring 6 fat quarters, and whoever wins that round of bingo wins everyone's fat quarter that they put in for that round. Then we do some tutorials. And as I say, the room is open 24 hours a day. Your lodge is just right across the little way. And we have some people who have insomnia, so they sew during the night and sleep during the day. We have a, so you sew whenever you want, nap when you want, take a walk when you want. I mean, it's just lovely. Trying to think. We have a sit in your seat scavenger hunt, which is a hoot. And I've got to write up this year's finds, you know, like toothbrush. Do you have a toothbrush in your belongings? But we have prizes. We have totes that are embroidered by a woman named Carol Hodges, who is so talented. And I'm not going to tell anybody, but she sent me the design for this year's tote bag. And it's amazing. It's so neat. So after the retreat, I'll show all of you at home. But we do games. We've had the most fun games. And then we have a pajama night and a sock hop night where we play music and we get up and dance if we want. But if you just want to sit and sew, you can. And we don't offer classes. We'll do little 15-minute tutorials if you want to participate. But everybody told me when we started this 6 years ago, they said, I want to do what I want to do. I want to do the block or the activities I brought, the sewing. Because if you think about it, it's right before Christmas, so it's a great time to get those projects gone. I just wanted to tell you, Mark just drove up, and I can't see in the car, but I'm hoping there's a washing machine in the car, in my van. So I may have to take a break and go help him carry it in. We'll see how that goes. And it looks like he's going around to the back of the van. He's opening the door, so there must be a washing machine. For those of you that came later, it's been a tough day with my poor little bird being mauled a little bit by the dogs. And then Mark comes upstairs and says, well, the sheets that we took off the bed this morning, they're sitting in a washing machine doing nothing. So it's like, how fast can I get on the computer and go to Lowe's? I called my daughter first. What kind of washing machine do you recommend? And she said LG, and it's a high efficiency. And I didn't get the 5 cubic foot because it's just Mark and I. So a big washing machine would actually be a waste for us. But I got a 4.5 cubic foot. I think that's big enough. And 500 altogether with tax, it was $588. That's a lot for a washing machine. What happened to the good old days where a washing machine was $250 and a dryer was $200? Oh, I guess that was 30 years ago. But anyway, looks like we have our washing machine. The thing is, he's got to figure out how to drain the water out of the other one. I said, well, you got to shop vac. I don't know what to tell you. So anyway, let me catch up. I've been talking so much. Let me see what y'all are talking about. Oh, Patty, it is the most beautiful. Melissa, honey, I love you. I've been lucky to meet wonderful people. Michelle Lang. You know, Michelle, you have my heart. I love my Michelle. And Michelle was really, really a good friend to me. And once I had my surgeries and felt better, then she moved, and I was like, oh, man, if she were back here now, oh, gosh, it would be awful. The things that we would do. But Melissa's a dear heart. Bonnie is becoming quite the friend. I couldn't do without my Bonnie. So I'm very grateful. You know, one thing that I've learned in life, family isn't always or just the people you were born to. Family, I think in some ways, is even sweeter when it's the people you choose to surround yourself with. So I have a big family now, and I love y'all to bits. So let me see what else y'all are saying. Oh, a stay-home quilt retreat. Now, Bonnie, I like that. Oh, Bonnie, that's great. Oh, and about the paint chip challenge, I have found what I'm going to do, and I hope Ann comes on here later, Ann Shearer, because she gave me an idea about Southwest, and I found the perfect idea. So I've got to put it in my EQ. I couldn't find a pattern. I just saw an image, a picture, and I'm going to put it in my EQ8 and design it up, and hopefully next week I'll show you. So good for you, Bonnie. You know what Mark calls that mental health time, where you just take off and do something that fills your soul. Because let me tell you what, I find that I had to learn that feeding your soul, taking care of your soul, very important. So, but anyway, I love my Melissa, and I can't wait to see her at the retreat. And I want to sit near her because it's been, you know, with a lot of stuff going on, it's been tough. A lot of news things that are hard, and I'm ready to have some good time. So, but yeah, and when you do go back to work, Bonnie, you're going to be a much happier person. So every once in a while, we just have to take care of us, because you know what? If we don't take care of us first, we cannot be there for all those who depend on us. So anyway, so what I'm doing then, I'm so proud of Bonnie for taking time off. She deserves it. This is an amazingly busy lady, and with her job at work, and I keep teasing, I keep saying Bonnie types 95 words a minute, but I think all of you notice her comments. I mean, I've never seen anyone type so well. And I don't know if I've ever seen a typo or anything. Bonnie, I don't know how you do it, girlfriend. Yes, Ann and Jan are coming to the retreat, and another gal who I've had a great time with, two gals actually, Joanne Embry and Becky Bostick. And then, my Becky Young is going to be there. She's our prize mistress. And so I was telling you what we pay. The ladies pay a $10 prize fee because we get them a great big zippered tote. And then we have wonderful Carol Hodges, who does the embroidery on the tote. And Melissa, I almost sent you a picture of the embroidery yesterday because I was so excited. I wanted to share it with someone. And then I thought, no, I better keep this as a surprise because I can't wait till y'all see how these totes are embroidered. So, and she gave the people, she does this all on her own. I only reimburse her for the, what do you call the stuff you put on the back of that tote? The stabilizer. I reimburse her for the stabilizer, but she uses all of her own thread. She's a dear, dear lady. And she had this idea that she would customize totes, put your monogram or your name on your tote for a $5 donation to the Salvation Army. We've raised $80 just with that. Is that amazing? That's pretty cool. So we're all... Oh, let me brag some more about the ladies. And this one's a Joanne Embry brag. A couple years ago, I was telling them that normally the place I put my camper was taken up with another camper. And it was a little camper covered with, the windows were covered in plastic. And turned out it was a woman from a bad domestic situation who they gave a hiding place to at the camp. And oh my gosh, we were just all stunned. You know, here we are with all of these beautiful, fun toys, sitting there having a wonderful time, and the meals being made for us, and all of our fun sewing and our little games, and some of us in our expensive machines and lots of fabric. And here is this woman and two of her children hiding out in an old little camper in very cold weather. And that will make you stop and think. And Joanne Embry said, let's make her a quilt. And I was thinking, make her a quilt? I get so overwhelmed when I'm there running the whole thing that I was a little overwhelmed. I think I'm going to sneeze, so I apologize ahead. Pardon me. They made, in the 4 or 5 days that we were there, they made, quilted, and bound a quilt for that woman. I get choked up just thinking about it. It was so beautiful, the number of ladies that dropped everything they were doing to make this woman a quilt. And that woman, we don't know her name, and I wouldn't say her name even if I did know it. But she wrote a letter saying that at such a low point, that quilt gave her so much love, and to know that other women were caring about her and thinking of her and wishing her well, that it made a huge difference in her life. So, powerful, huh? Now you see why I love and admire women so much. And quilters have the biggest hearts, don't they? So anyway, so what have I been doing? I am a self-taught computer nerd. And when I say nerd, I use it lightly. I only know how to do what I want to do because I kind of have to figure it out. It's happenstance, which drives Mark crazy because he's a process logical person and I'm all over the place. But I've been having to deal with Excel spreadsheets. And he tries to explain to me how this works and why. He might as well be speaking a totally foreign language that I have no hope of ever understanding. And I have to keep track of all 35 ladies. Who's staying what nights? Are they saying 2 to a room, 1 to a room, maybe even triple in a room? Well, how much is that going to cost them each night? Then what meals do they want? We're there from Tuesday through Sunday, and 3 meals a day except for Tuesday, just dinner. Which one of those meals do they want? They all cost something different. You know, breakfast costs 10, lunch 12, dinner 14. Who are they going to be rooming with so I can make sure I've got all that straight for them and ready to go? Because some people, there's smaller rooms and larger rooms, and so it all depends. If you're putting a triple in a room, I've got to get their biggest rooms. But anyway, who are going to be day campers? Some people live nearby and they just come for the day, so there's a different rate for that. And then did they give a deposit? Did they give their $10 prize fee? This year, okay, are they wanting their bags personalized? That's $5 I have to put on the invoice. So Mark sets up the invoice for me and I try to fill it all out. And trying to get information from 35 people, it trickles in. I try to save all of my emails to one folder, which is the retreat folder. But I don't know if I've told you, I had to get a new laptop in April, and I had to get a new internet 3 weeks ago. So it's like, have I lost emails in the transfer process? Little things like all my contacts were erased the other day when I said I don't want the old email address on the computer at all. Luckily, it saved it, but it saved the list of last spring. So all these new contacts I didn't have on the list. Luckily, oh, I'm so lucky. The first thing I did was put all of the retreaters in a name file base in my Word program. So I had their emails, I had their addresses, and thank goodness, because I'm sitting there going, how do I reach some of these people if I no longer have their email? And let me tell you, I was mad because I had taken the time to put all the emails in nice folders, retreat folders, family folders, old high school friend folders, gone. All that work, hours just gone. But anyway, we made it. Mark found a way to import that one list that it did save in, and that helped me a lot. I thought I was going to have to key in all my email addresses again. So it's been a tough few days. I have not even sewn this week. I've been doing only retreat business because, writing people and saying, let me understand this. Who are you sharing? And what are the days again? And what are the meals? And it's a lot. And then I do all the banking for it because the camp wants one check. They don't want check from 35 different people. And so that's why I send out invoices. Then they have to send me their balance due by October 25th because we leave in November. So Anyway, and then another group started a retreat. And so I lost some people with that. So then I had to kind of do some recruiting. People, do you have anybody you know wants to go? Because I like to have at least 32 people in the group. So anyway, yeah, Excel is a little temperamental. You have to, oh, thanks, hon. Yeah, Excel is tricky. But the reason I'm telling you this is kind of quilt related. It's rewarding to do a retreat, but it's a lot of work. And I used to do it because I was president of the guild that I founded. But when I retired from the guild, I wanted to keep the retreat because it's such a gem. I didn't want to take a chance on losing our slot at Camp Walter Johnson because last thing I heard, they were totally booked up for the whole year. But when they do these retreats in the off season in the winter, it helps pay. They can sponsor more children for the summer. So it's wonderful. And they do all kinds of other good activities throughout the winter too, with all different church groups and outreach groups and stuff. So, but it's a good thing. So it's a lot. If you want to do a retreat, you have to be extremely organized and have all your bookkeeping in place before you start. Things like I've got one lady paid $35 too much. Well, that might not sound like a big deal. And so I had to write to her. So that's another email and say, you paid $35 too much because she didn't wait for her invoice. She wanted to hurry up and get it in. So then it's like, well, what do you want me to do with it? Do you want me to mail you a check back? Do you want me to mail you your check back and you send me a correct check? Or do you want me to give you the cash at the retreat? Most of them say, give me the cash at the retreat. So then I have to make sure I have the cash for that and record exactly what happened and how, and have a receipt for that, and then give it to her. And then, in fact, are you ready for this, Bonnie? I'm thinking of doing a live feed from the retreat. Maybe a Saturday feed. I don't know if y'all are up to it, but I thought, you want to see what a retreat's like? We'll do a live feed, and whoever wishes, people would have to not mind being on camera. But I thought, I'll take you with me. You're going to go to the retreat with me, and we'll show you some fun things and what we do, and maybe some of you will one day be able to come to our retreat. Because we love it. We love it. But anyway, then I've got to make a schedule out of all the opportunities, since we don't make anybody feel like they have to do it. And then I have to get organized and get all the things ready to go. Oh my gosh! Mark is on here. Mark, that's Boomerang is my Mark. Okay. Kiwi is alert and walking or looking around. I asked him if he would be the one to check on Kiwi because a little scary for me to go in there not knowing what I'm going to find. Oh, yay. Oh, thank God. I love that little bird, even though she's bitten me pretty hard over the last couple of weeks. Oh, good, good. And then the washer, I can wash clothes. My daughter, who lives a half an hour away, says, you can come use our washing machine. And I'm thinking, I'm not lugging dirty clothes anywhere. I've done that. But that was sweet of her to say it. Oh, I'm so glad Mark wrote me. He didn't want to interfere. Oh, there he is. Do you see Mark back there, guys? He's my hero today. So, thank goodness. He's a dear heart. Y'all just got to see my Mark. So, yay, Kiwi. I'm so tickled. You don't know. Oh, my gosh. I just got her food that had coconut and papaya and all kinds of stuff. And her favorite snacks are raisins. And I'm introducing her to vegetables and hard-boiled egg and all this. So she's very special to me. Mark, they all said hi. Sorry, I forgot I was yelling. But anyway, so that's a little bit about the retreat. And then when we get there, of course, you got to make sure everybody has their room and all their needs are met. and we have to usually always set up a couple extra tables, and so it's a lot, but I'm so looking forward to it. And I think the thing I love about it is we only collect the prize fee and that donation if you wanted your tote bag done. We collect the room and meals. That's it. I don't get a penny. None of us get paid. The lady who does the embroidery doesn't get paid. She uses her own threads. The lady who's the prize lady always spends a lot of her own money to make sure we all have fun prizes. Oh, and another thing, we're going to do a yard sale there. So, Melissa, if you have something you want to sell, we let people do their own yard sale table. And then last year we had a wonderful woman who brought fabric in. I'm hoping, I've written her a couple emails and haven't heard from her, but I'm hoping she's going to be back this year. And so it's just a lot of fun. I mean, there's not many times in this life you can do something I think it's very inexpensive. I don't know if you've priced any retreats, but if you were to be there every day, have your own single room, eat every meal, you're talking about around $500. And if you share a room and have maybe every meal but not breakfast, then you're down into the couple hundred, $200 to $300 range. I think it's the best deal going. And this is Tuesday through Sunday. It's funny, we started out Thursday through Sunday, went not nearly enough time. We've gone Tuesday through Sunday, and people said, I want it longer. No, I can't. I usually take my camper over on Sunday, and it gives me a day or two for last minute things and just to kind of get into my Zen moment so that I can deal with all of the fun afterwards. So that's it for that. Oh, I bet. What color is this Great Dane? Great Danes, they're not a foster dog. They're a foster pony. Let's be honest. Oh, isn't that the truth? Boy, do you get your exercise. You should see her drive around in her car with Cooper in the back seat. You look in the window and this face, the size of a bear, looks back at you. Oh, black with a splash of white. Don't they call them Bostons? Oh, Melissa's fun. Melissa is fun. Oh, no. That's a problem. I used to do greyhound rescue. And I think it's one of the reasons that Melissa and I became fast friends, because if you've done rescue, that's quite special. There is a mantle, but she does not have that much white. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what they were called. My absolute favorite color is Harlequin, and that's Mr. Cooper, and that's one of the reasons I love him. Love him. So, but anyway, okay, so I've talked about the retreat. Any questions you have about the retreat? The thing is, you bring everything you can possibly think of to a retreat. A mantle has white socks and white on the face. Ooh, okay. That's neat. So, and do you know, Melissa, in the rescue world, we know that black dogs are less likely to be adopted. We had that problem with greyhounds. Evidently, some people are afraid of black dogs. I think it has something to do with their eyes. It's harder to see a dog's eyes when they're black eyes and a black dog. And so people tend to be afraid of them. And we always had a problem getting our black greyhounds adopted. We tried to give them a lot more attention, put a scarf on their neck, something that just because people don't even realize they're doing that, So, because so far as ugly colors, I thought the brindles were the ugliest color, but unfortunately, black is something that people without realizing don't want. But they are just as wonderful as anybody else, let me tell you. So, and probably a lot easier to keep clean, because my dogs their white feet get dirty and their white around their mouth gets dirty. Uh-oh. Okay, here we go. Oh, yeah. Do you ever have blue Great Danes? Because we had a color in the Greyhound world. It's very rare, called blue Greyhounds. And it's a Weimaraner color, you know, that kind of silver, dark silver. And they call them blues. And, people would do anything to get a blue, but they just ignore the blacks. But anyway, all right. So I told you last week we were going to do hand quilting, and we are. I also told you last week, I keep forgetting to show you my first quilt. So I'm going to show you my first quilt, and it's not finished. Surprise? I don't think so. And then I've got another surprise to show you. I talked about this quilt last week. I don't know if anybody remembers a quilt that I said, I need to show you that. Well, it's behind me. So I'll be showing you that. And then I'm going to show you a problem I had with my Jinny Beyer block of the month. And I think that this is something good to show you my mistake, because if I can make this mistake after quilting since before 1990 in the 1980s, then I think just about anybody can make it. So let's get busy first showing you my first ever quilt. Pardon me, gotta go get it. Okay. It was in the 1980s, and I had 3 young children, and I was an at-home mom, plus did daycare to bring in money to make ends meet. And so I learned about adult continuing education, and I signed up for night classes because I had to get out of the house and do something so that my brain didn't turn to mush, because that's what it would feel like at the end of a day. So one of the classes, and since I did sewing, I did all the kids' clothes and most of my own, and home decor, you know, the curtains, draperies, all that. I thought, I'll take something that has something to do with sewing. And it was quilting. And quilting in the 80s was very popular because we had the bicentennial, and people kind of thought, oh, cool, we'll do quilting. And I have a feeling you're going to realize this was during the 1980s, because look at the colors. And I wish you could see the fabrics, because like this blue, I think it has some polyester in it. And you know how to test for polyester. I don't have a match, but what you do is you would take like this little thread and you put a match against it, and cotton just burns and turns to dust. Polyester melts and turns, once it cools, it turns like into little globules. It's kind of stiff. So that's how you, I know. We thought polyester was going to change the world. Gosh, do you remember wearing and those polyester double knits? Ooh, you couldn't get those things clean for anything. All right. So this was a sampler quilt, and I'll show you all of it in just a minute. But first, I thought I'd show you the different blocks, and to tell you it's not finished. And see what I took to put the quilting. Back then, you hand quilted, but I used a regular number 2 pencil to draw the quilt pattern on there. That's what we all did. We did not have marking things back then. So, also, the backing for all of the quilts was muslin. That's just what we did. And there was no rotary cutter. Everything had to be drawn with a pencil on the fabric and cut out one at a time. And that used to get a bigger response, but now that we're going back to templates, it's not that rare. But isn't that the truth? You have to quilt on the line, or else you're looking at number 2 pencil forever. And everything was hand quilted. In fact, I'll show you my hand quilting. Can you see it? And if you notice, my stitches were rather big. Here's an area that has, do you see how big my stitches are? But I had a longtime quilter who had won an award say, your quilting is beautiful. And I said, but the stitches are kind of big. She said, the size of the stitch is not what's important. It's how even the stitches are. And she said, yours are very even. So I was so proud. It was like, well, thank you. So I was very happy. Anyway, but I will finish this one of these days. And little hearts there. And back then you had stencils, and you'd lay the stencil and take your pencil and draw around it. Now, I use this in my trunk show because if you had asked me 10 years ago what kind of quilter I was, I would have said, I'm a traditional quilter. That's what I do, traditional. But there are little signs that are showing you what I was thinking. Oh, thank you. Yes. In fact, I'm going to finish it by hand too. But do you see this block right here? This is a grandmother's fan. See that grandmother's fan? And do you see what's on the edge of the grandmother's fan? Do you see that? That is hand crocheted lace that I did. And even back my very first quilt, I had to embellish it my own way. And then, Bonnie, what kind of quilting do you call that? Let's see, anybody know what kind of quilting that is? What people tend to call it? If you don't, it's okay, I can tell you. But I just was wondering. It looks like clamshell, but what this is, it's mimicking the grandmother's fan. So we call that echo quilting. But yes, it does. It does look like clamshell. And it's just where you come out, and since the fan has slightly arched edges, you just echo out. See, back then when you quilted by hand, you didn't do stitch in the ditch very much because it was too hard. You quilted 1/4 of an inch inside the seam. All right. And, oh no, I just realized something. I've always been proud. Echo quilting. Good job. Good job, Patty. Oh, look at y'all. I just realized something. I've always been proud that I've never done a hexagon quilt, a hexie. I used to say I would never do applique, and now I love applique. I just saw something. This is the first time I've realized this. Do you see what that is? Those are hexies. Oh my gosh. Yes, I was thinking, Bonnie, do you know why I have to tack down the lace too? Because it curls. It curls. So if I tack it down, then you can see that pretty sweet little lace I did. So you saw it right away. I just now realized I had forgotten, because back then I wouldn't have understood hexie over anything. I did hexies, and I never wanted to have done them. Oh, brother. Okay, then we did a little applique butterfly. Well, of course, I put his little antenna on there. Antennae. So I was showing signs of doing my own thing, even back then. Here's a good old rail fence. You see that? So this is cool. This is cool. And here's a good old dime patch. But I've got 2 more blocks left to quilt. Okay, here's another quiz. What block is this? Anybody know what block this is? Let's see. I'm curious to see who gets it right. What block is this? Oh, thanks. I should. I'll get back and show you from a distance. Anybody know what block? No, not the Ohio. You know what? I don't know, but I don't call it Ohio Star. Anybody else have a guess? On the Quilt Show newsletter comes out with the Jinny Beyer Name That Block game, and I play it every week because I really want Churn Dash. I think you're right. I was thinking Monkey Wrench, but I think you are right. I think you're both. Patty and Bonnie got it. And you know what? Who knows, Michelle? It might be an Ohio star. So now I'm going to go back and show it to you all together. Okay, let me see which way is up. Okay. Whoops, I'm going to have to go back farther. So this was my first ever quilt that I will finish. I promise. So, all right. Now, do you want to see my second surprise? Are you ready? Let me turn out some lamps. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Okay. Are you ready? Let me get out of the way. Oh, no, oh, no, no. Don't fall. Don't fall. Hold on, guys. Okay. Do you see it? Yep, this is the LED quilt. I'm going to have to turn on some light just so you can see it a little better. There you go. It's called City Lights, and it has 150 lights. So up top are the fireworks. Then these are the city buildings, and I will bring it close in just a minute to show you. But isn't that cute? This is always the last quilt I show in my truck show because it's just so cute. And nobody's expecting a quilt to light up. So now I'm going to go, keep looking at it while I go and get all my other lights back on. All right. All righty. Okay. So this was one of those Hoffman prints that is digitally printed, so you can get a really crisp image. And I thought that the buildings in it, now it came with a kind of green background, but I cut out around the buildings and put them on blue, because I wanted the sky color. And then let me show you some of the heavy printing on this. I mean, the heavy thread work. Remember I told you I thread painted it? So that's all. Can you see the thread painting? Now, Melissa has seen this in person. And so are you seeing it now? And then, if you'll notice, they have depth to them. I put padding behind them. But this fabric now feels like tapestry. It is that thick and heavy. And then I'll show you how I put the lights on. In the front, I took a sharp pair of scissors. From the back, I took the sharp little tiny pair of scissors and made holes through the quilt because you've got to be able to get the LED lights in. But let me see the cords. I was too afraid to put the cords. Well, you can't put the cords inside the fabric because you've got a quilt. And you cannot sew through the cord. The cord has to stay intact. And but you see how the cords, so it's not a quilt you can cuddle up with because all the cords run down. The cords are like right here. And I just tacked them gently down on the back of the quilt. And then here is the plug. And I ordered the brown lights with the brown plug so it wouldn't be so noticeable. But I'm going to go ahead and unplug it now that you've seen it. But I like the oohs and ahs I usually get when I plug this one in because I've kept it a secret that it had lights in it. And then I said, it's named City Lights. And, oh, isn't that backing fabric wonderful? Do you know where I got this backing from? Connecting Threads. They have it in stock now in red and blue, but I wish they would do another black and white. That is tremendous. I would buy a bunch more. But anyway, so here is a little closer. I thought that these looked a little Art Deco-y, like stained glass. So I thought it went with the 40s look of the buildings. Everything about the quilt just kind of gave me an Art Deco feel. And that's where I designed this and figured out I would put Art Deco blocks. And it's been quilted. And as I told you too, it's been thread painted with glow-in-the-dark thread. But it's it glows a little bit. But I said, no, this needs electricity. So you didn't just see me throw that on the floor, but that's done. So there's 2 more topics today, but I want to see what y'all are talking about.
Come from Tarpan, SPGS, and so. Come from Tarpan.
All right. I don't know why I have to look at the phone, but I'm not going to answer. All right. Let's see what y'all are saying. New Year's Eve. Yeah, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Thank you, guys. Yep. It is the glow-in-the-dark and the LEDs because it didn't quite glow in the dark enough. Melissa, I know that Michelle took that class from me. Did you take that class too? So if you want any help on it, bring it to the retreat. Anything that you need to finish that you want to finish out of one of the classes, feel free. But thank you. Your comments are lovely. Yeah, it's alive. Bonnie, you're so funny. So, yeah, I did. They wanted me to teach a class on it, but I think I kind of intimidated the students because they're like, I have to do all that to it. But you don't. You can do it your own way. As I told Bonnie, I tend to over quilt. I do everything a little bit much, you know. But anyway, okay. Oh, and you know what? This is a good thing to talk. Let's talk briefly about what should you bring to a quilt retreat. The one thing that I want you all to promise me, if you're going to go to a quilt retreat, you have to promise me this, okay? You have to put your sewing machine, your accessory bag with the different feet, your foot pedal, your plug, your electric plug, whatever little things you need for your thread, put those all into some kind of container. If you don't have a bag to pack your sewing machine in, put all the accessories in a bag, tape it with painter's tape to the machine if you don't have a pack. Oh, good. Oh, I did see that. And because I cannot tell you how many people get to a retreat and they don't have their foot pedal or they don't have their electric cord for the machine. And please, oh yeah, I do have a video. Please, please, please. There's nothing worse than getting there and not even being able to use your machine. It's going to ruin all the fun, and you've spent money and time to get there. The other thing that I tell people is always bring 2 or 3 extra projects that I show up with 8 or 9 projects for 4 or 5 days. But let me tell you why. My own daughter went on a couple-day retreat with me one time years ago, and she's a knitter. Well, she only brought like 2 projects because she thought, and this makes sense, she thought, I won't have time to do more than 2. Well, the problem is she left behind something that she needed for that project, for one of those. So once she had finished her other one, she just sat there. That's awful. You don't want to waste your time going to a retreat and not having stuff that you really want to work on. So I learned, always take several extra things you know you won't have time to get to. But that way, if you're missing something vital, or let's say the next step on it, you don't understand what they're trying to say, or it needs something that you didn't realize before, or you run out of one of the fabrics and you're going to need to replicate it. Most of the time when you go on retreats, you're not going to be near shopping. Or you might not have the vehicle to go, or like with me, I go in my motorhome. Once I'm there, I have no vehicle. That's a drive-in motorhome. That's it. So, but yes, please, please, please make a checklist. And I find it's helpful to take the checklist with me, because then when I'm there, I know what I've got. I might forget, oh, did I bring that seam ripper? Oh, it's on the checklist. I know I've got it. And also it helps to make sure that you pack everything up to go home, because you won't believe the things that have been left at a retreat. And, and I did it myself one time. I sat down a whole bag of stuff, my precious things, my parts of my machine, and walked away and forgot. So make a list, check it twice, put it on a clipboard, and keep the clipboard in your car or motorhome, whatever. But it's worth the time to make a list and check. And what I do is I visualize what it's going to take to make that project, to make sure I have everything I need. So please do that. If you don't bring enough stuff, you will regret it. I also bring clothes that I'm comfortable in. It's not a fashion contest, trust me. All of the nice thing about ladies getting to a certain age, they don't care anymore about, I still put on makeup. I'm self-conscious about my complexion, but wear stuff that's comfortable, slippers, stretchy pants, because you will be sitting longer than you normally do sewing at the sewing machine, and you don't want to get your ankles too swollen. I take my own sewing chair and extra pillow pad thing to sit on. I also bring a fold-up camping recliner so I can sit down and put my feet up, because sometimes you might want to sit down and do some handwork. Label the bags with your name, and if you can, your phone number. Label everything. Label your scissors. Label your... This used to have my name on it, but see, it's rubbed off, so I'm going to go through everything of mine. So if you don't want to write on it with a Sharpie, then make a little beaded fob to put on the bottom of the scissors. Anything to mark it as yours. But write your name on everything. On your cutting mat, on your rulers. Just take a Sharpie and mark, because you know how many people are going to have the exact ruler you have, the exact scissors? There are only so many kinds. And the worst thing you'd ever want to do is think, oh, I think she came and picked up my scissors, but she doesn't realize those are mine. She forgot. And you have to go over to somebody and say, are those my scissors? So if your name is on it, it's easy. Even if you just put a tag and put a little piece of yarn or something on them. But mark everything. Take things to be comfortable. Take things, think through a project. What could I possibly need? What if this happened? Things people forget, like extra sewing machine needles. You will break a needle. Extra feet, because let's say you just take your 1/4-inch foot. Well, what if you need to do a zigzag? Something happens, you need to do a zigzag. You can't do it on a 1/4-inch foot. So any machine oil if you need it, or brushes to clean out your machine. One thing I try to do if I possibly can is I have this thing, and it came with when I bought my YLI silk spools of thread. It had like 5 spools in here. This has tons and tons of bobbins in it, and what I do is I wind my bobbins before I go on retreat. Because the last thing you want to do is sit and wind bobbins when everybody's sewing. Plus, yeah, or my ankles are too swollen. Yep, and but I wind bobbins, and also think of what colors you might use. Is there anything with any of the projects, for one reason, you might need yellow? So wind a yellow bobbin. Wind dark, wind light. But one thing I've noticed when I go to a retreat, I'm very easily distracted. I'm a little attention deficit. I tell you all my secrets. But anyway, I find it's very distracting at a retreat. There's a lot going on around you, a lot of talking and laughing. And so anything that needs concentrating, like if cutting out fabric, you really need to concentrate, try to do that ahead of time. Or try to do it at a time when the retreat's not as busy. You know, if you're not going to have breakfast, do it while everybody else is out eating breakfast. So, yeah. Oh, honey, I see bright and shiny objects and I'm gone. Squirrel! That is the truth. So anything to help you concentrate is a good thing. I take folding tray tables, the kind that have a plastic top. You can get them at Target. They're about $17. I take 2 of them because I can set one for cutting on this side of me and one over here for ironing. And then I have a board wrapped in batting and wrapped in ironing board fabric and then underneath I put one of those bumpy little sticky or shelf liner things to keep it from moving. And I set that up with my travel iron. In our retreat, you can only have a travel iron, smaller than 800 watts. That's all you can have at your seat. If you want to use a full-size iron, you have to go up to the front of the room or middle of the room where we set up real ironing stations. Because if everybody plugs in an iron and along the way, you're going to have them fuses popping left and right. And some of our computerized machines don't appreciate having their power cut. That's not a good thing. So, but take your own cord reel or extension cord. I also take a polarized, it is polarized, but anti-surge plug strip. And that way I can plug in my own stuff right there and don't have to worry. Because you're not going to be usually given a plug strip. You might get one place to plug one thing in. So if you plug the plug strip, then you can use up to 5 or 6 things. So, and if you want more information, go to my retreat video where I show you. So I'm thinking, since everyone tends to leave the retreat starting in Sunday morning to Sunday lunchtime, and we have to be out by 3, let's have a live feed on Saturday, November 17th. Saturday, November 17th. I think that's the Saturday right before Thanksgiving. So we're going to do a live feed. I will put a reminder on the site so everybody knows. I can prearrange these streams and set up a future date. So I'll make sure a couple weeks ahead I say, this week we're doing the live stream from our retreat. So you're going to get to meet Melissa and a few other people, and that'll be fun. So I think we've talked enough about the retreat. Before we get into the hand quilting, let me tell you what I did wrong. I like telling you things I do wrong because stuff happens. Okay. So this month we had to do two things. One of them was putting triangles on the end of these strips we had made. These were fussy cut out of her border with a slice of this gorgeous teal in the middle. This month, we had to take our template, which you could see through, draw on it to make sure we got this perfectly in place. Now, she had used where there were two brown stripes, but I liked this one brown. I thought it matched better on that, but I just thought I wanted as much of the teal color as I could get. So I'm happy with this. And doing this gives me an idea of what the final, we only have 2 more steps before we get the reveal. Because remember, I don't know what this is going to look like. But do you notice how these go together? I think it's going to be a giant star that's going to meet with a hexagon in the center. So that's why these had to be exact mirror cuts. And so I can't wait to see. So now, on a step we had a while ago, we had to make these blocks. And they were done. You could do them paper pieced or by hand. And she said, hand saves half the fabric. I got all excited. I want to save this beautiful fabric. So I did them by hand. And I did them at camp so I could sit outside. See my stitching? I could sit outside and in the beautiful weather and make these. So these were all done by hand. And I love that swirling pattern. Well, this month she goes, well, I didn't tell you before, but you're going to be making 6 more of these, and they're going to be reversed. Well, I cut out all my little pieces. I'm a good camper, and I'm like, okay, we can make 6 more of them. But she said they're going to be reversed. That should have caught me. It should have caught my attention. When I cut these out, if you think about it, she gave you the... When you cut these out, when I cut them out before, when I go to sew them, when you sew on paper piecing, you're doing a reverse. Does that make sense? Because you put them and you fold it out and you put them on the back of the paper. Anyway, I just realized that I had made 3 of these and realized they all look the same. Something's not right. So then I started to investigate, and I went back and watched her videos again, and then I went and read the directions. Like my father used to say, if all else fails, read the directions. So I read the directions, and sure enough, you were supposed to cut out the templates one way. Then for the next 6, you were supposed to reverse the template. Because to get a mirror image, all you do to get a mirror image, see, here's the way you would lay it on top of the fabric so that you can read it. This would be the regular. Then to reverse it, you just turn it over and cut it that way. And that way you can see that this way you'll have some fabric, then that way you can see where it'll make the mirror image of it. Well, I didn't flip it over. So I cut out 100 pieces of fabric and I can't use it at all. Because when I made my 3 blocks, it looked just like this. Well, that kind of defeats the purpose. And if you can see, you think, well, would it really matter? Well, yes, because up here where the skinny parts are, it's supposed to be the wide ends. And see down here where they're the wide ends. Whoops, I can't make myself go. I want to, okay. This is what I'll see, the wide ends, they're supposed to be narrow ends so that the whole swirl is the other way. So all of this fabric that I was trying to preserve, I wasted. All of these were cut the opposite way. So now instead of saving all that fabric, I've got to cut all 100 pieces out again. So, well, what? No, because you know what? If I sew them, the swirl's going the wrong way. But what I did decide to do is use them and make a pillow. Make something out of them. So I'm not going to let it go to waste. That was a lot of work. So now what I'm having to do, and let me show you. I'll show you what I'm having to do to correct this. Oh, I dropped fabric over. And I'll actually show you too. I made a mess here. Hold on. Okay. Got my exercise today. All right. So here is the first small piece of fabric. Okay. I'm going to show you. Because I kept trying to think of how, there's bound to be a way I can still use them. Okay. So here is this triangle. And see right here, this wide end of this greenish fabric is up here. See this triangle? Whoops, let me see. Yeah. This one, the wide end goes this way. This one, the wide end goes that way. So they're opposites. See how they're mirror. See? So what I did is I had to get my fabric and take my cute little template. Let me bring it down here and show you what I'm having to do. Okay. Okay. Whoops. All right. So I need white. I need my white chalk. Hold on. Come on. White chalk. Blue. Where's my white chalk? And the fun of live television. I'll use yellow. Okay. I love these slivers of chalk, but you can use any kind of quilt marking utensil. But let me move these out of the way. And before I laid the template down so that you could see it, read it, right? Well, now what I'm having to do is take the template and turn it over and place it here. Place it like this. And see, there's an arrow this way. I have to make sure it's parallel to this edge because it has to be on the straight of grain. She gives you that information and it's good to use. So then I go around the piece with this tailor's chalk, and now I have the piece going the correct way. See, it's, whoops. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, I don't think that, you know what? I must have turned it over last time. And this time, okay, yeah, that must be the way I did it. Hold on. When in doubt, check. Oh, okay. So last time I turned it over because I knew with paper piecing, you have to kind of do it the opposite way. Now this time I've figured out, aha, you have to turn it right side up. So I'm just going to rub that chalk line off. And if you can't get it to come off good enough, take another piece of fabric and rub it off. See how now it's nice and clean? And so I put it right side up now is the opposite. Okay. This is all confusing, and it just means take it one step at a time. All right, I'm turning this over. I can make the best use of fabric, and you know I'm cheap. I'm making sure, in fact, if you want to make extra sure, measure that it is the same edge from the same distance from the edge. Then take your chalk and come mark it, mark it, mark it, mark it. And then I'll cut it out. And while I'm doing this, then when I take that loose, I know that this line is already parallel to, did I say perpendicular? I mean parallel to the edge. I want this line to be parallel to the edge. So then I know it already is from that first piece. So I put this in and I mark that. And then I take my new Tooltron nippers and I cut them out. And I cut it out here. Okay. And then I cut right along the chalk line. So the reason I have to cut 100 pieces of this is because each F through 5, I have to cut 18 pieces. And then F6, I have to cut 12. And it just, and actually, I think F1, I had to cut 6. And this is a lot of different fabric to keep up with. So I don't know if I ever showed you, but I'll show you again now, that I take masking tape and write on the fabric F2 so I can keep it straight, so I'm not constantly taking this and measuring up against the other. So anyway, so now you get to see that I need to take all of this fabric and use the corresponding templates. Use the corresponding templates and cut them all out over again. But I can still use the other, but it'll have to be for something different, a different project. So I was trying to save fabric, but I didn't. Oh, well, I guess there's worse things in life. So that's my Jinny Beyer dilemma. And she told us that she had us do them 2 separate times, even though it's the same sewing method, because she said that when she did them both at the same time, she kept mixing them up. And it's so, and you know, she is the world's best. And if she can mix them up and she's the best, then I don't feel so bad about my mistake. So anyway, so even though she did them a separate time, so I tend to forget, you know, it's that little squirrel thing. I kind of forget, but by the next time. So, but luckily you usually have enough fabric. But I have to finish these 6 because the new clue comes out this coming up Saturday. Do you know tomorrow's October 1st? So I'm not ready for that. All right, so I'm going to go see what you have to say, and then we'll do the hand quilting. This time, I did a better job of planning for us to get together. All right, let's see what you all are saying, and I hope you're saying something here. I want to hear you. All right. Where is my mouse? Found my mouse. All right. Thanks, Michelle. I think that, you know what, it's such a pretty design. I think I can make a really nice pillow, and I can always use it. In fact, when I sew, sometimes my lower back gets sore now, so that'll be my quilting pillow. And you know what, with those blocks being 6 inches, and I have enough to make 6 of them, I could do 3 for the front and 3 for the back. That's what I'll do. Butcher paper. You mean freezer paper? Yes, freezer paper is wonderful. Hold on, I'll get out my freezer paper. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I think quilting saved the freezer paper industry because I don't use it for my food. I don't know about y'all, but so Miss Patty is talking about freezer paper. For those of you who've never seen freezer paper, let me just show you the box again. It says plastic coated freezer paper. And it is paper and it has the plastic coating on it. Okay, there's the plastic shiny side. Let me see. Plastic shiny side. Here is the dull paper side. Okay. What is wonderful about freezer paper? And I can show you using my wrongly cut strips of fabric. Okay. So I'm going to show you something wonderful about freezer paper. While my iron is heating up, I'm going to show you this. And freezer paper is pretty inexpensive. It's funny, there is a type of saran wrap, and does anybody remember the name? I've got a box upstairs, yellow saran wrap. It's Press and Seal, I think is the name. And I have it up by my quilt frame because, okay, so, yeah, good. You can kind of see me pressing here. I have it up by my quilt frame. Oh, I didn't press it hard enough yet. Let me see. Hold on a second. I'm afraid to get the iron on the plastic part. All right, I'll put this down. Now, what I did now is put the fabric wrong side up down there, and then I'm going to lay the freezer paper and iron it this way. Let me see if I can get it to where it's stuck. All right. See what I just did? I ironed the fabric down on freezer paper. And some people use this to do applique. Let me cut it out. Let me get my paper scissors. My daughters are so funny now. They say, Mom, now we understand why you would get so upset if we used your sewing scissors to cut cardboard. Because they guard theirs too. And their kids know if you touch Mama's sewing scissors, you're in trouble. So I'm going to cut this out. And I actually did them wrong, I think. But, okay. Oh, I know what I need to do. Okay. I'm just going to trim the paper back. And what you can do with this is if you want a nice crisp edge on your applique, I folded the paper back like this. And then I'm going to take the fabric, the fabric, and iron over the edge. Just turn it up and press it. Sometimes I will take a little bit of starch in a paintbrush and paint the starch on. Well, actually, okay. If I take and fold this over, it will give me a nice sharp edge that I can then do my applique with. And the same thing on this end. Let me press it here for a second. The nice thing about freezer paper, you can use it about 5 or 6 times before it loses its stickiness. So it must leave a little bit of plastic behind. But that way you can have, it gives support to the fabric. Yes, press and seal, Michelle, thank you. And Oh, really? Oh, yeah. So if it would be like, it would be freezer paper, but butchers get it cheaper in large quantities. Is that what you're saying, Bonnie? I love how much stuff y'all know. Y'all are smart people. So now, Patty, are you from states? That's right. You're from Maine. Okay. And I think Maine still has butchers in some of the towns. That's so cool. I miss, it's nice that grocery stores kind of kept you from going to all different kinds of shops. But then we learned the butchers taught us how to cook the meat and what the difference was. And I kind of miss some of those things. I'd always told Mark that when we went to town, we wore white gloves on our hands. And the other day we saw a movie, and sure enough, this woman going to town had her white gloves on. I just think that's hilarious. I mean, it was somehow considered rude if you didn't wear your white gloves. I'm not sure why. Okay. Well, I'm having a hard time working on this, so I'm not going to do it. But was there something, Patty, you wanted to talk? I know that people use it with applique methods. What are other things some of you do with freezer paper? It's a good stabilizer. And then you can cut the fabric and take it out. How do you get your freezer paper out if you sew it down? I'm trying to get it to work, but I'm not in the mood. It's not working. But anyway, as you see, you can put this on it. And then when you peel them off, it doesn't feel like it has anything on it. See? Then I'll lay them down again. Put this against, right, wrong side's up this time, like I did last time. And press. And you have to get it hot enough to melt that little bit of a plastic. But as you can see, right again. And it's inexpensive and you use it a long time. And I've got to figure out where Patty gets her butcher paper cheaper. That's awesome. So I do love freezer paper. It works really well. In fact, I wonder, do any of you know if you could use freezer paper as a stabilizer, or does it dull the needle too fast? Because if it works, stabilizers are expensive. I don't know if y'all have noticed. So, and as usual, I want to know what you're working on, because I love hearing what y'all do. I get bored of hearing I already know what I'm doing. And I would love to hear what you're doing. Love, love, love it. All right. Making some room here, clearing up my mess. All right. Now. All right. Let's see. When you mentioned, I was talking about cutting your templates. Oh, yes. Exactly. Thank you, Patty. Patty, you're brilliant. When I do like applique leaves, instead, I just draw on the non-shiny part of the freezer paper. I draw a bunch of leaves, or I trace them off templates, and then iron it on leaf-colored fabric. It is. You're exactly right. Good job. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Use it to make a window like a square with the center cut out, and then you can fussy cut out easier. That's a neat idea. That's a great idea. So you can use it like a frame to be able to fussy cut something. Well, what I have right now, let me go down just a touch. This is, you guys know what who makes this again? I am forgetting today. The Grace Quilt Company, I think, made this. And it's beautiful. I haven't used it as much as I thought I would. But I bought it years ago when I was still really into hand quilting. And I know I'll use it, so it's not waste, but I haven't used it quite as much as I thought. And it's a laminated plywood that's been finished to perfection. And it has these knobs so you can change the rotation. It's got a ball joint like you have in your hip. It's got a ball joint, so you can tilt this top to any direction. Now you can also use, most of the time when I quilt, I just use a bamboo hoop and just hold. And I like a 14-inch minimum bamboo hoop. But with this, I decided to use this today to show you about hand quilting, because then I can have both my hands to show you things. So I've got some white fabric. This is inexpensive fabric that I just use for patterns, or, you know, you can kind of see through it, you know. I don't know if you can, well, if you had the lamp behind you, yeah, you can see how you can kind of see through it. Normally, I don't like using fabric you can see through. So for right now, I'm not going to pre-base this. Let's say you want a hand quilt. You've got to do some form of basting, whether you use an adhesive basting spray, or whether, often what I do is take and using painter's tape or using some kind of big, like a clothespin, but bigger, fasten the backing to your table, because you want to get it totally smooth. If there are any wrinkles, any pleats, that will be forever in your quilted piece. So you make sure you lay it flat, then you lay your batting on top of that. Now, I just noticed I set my batting down wrong. This is the scrim side of the batting. I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of smooth and doesn't have all the bumpiness. And the smoothness is because it's been sprayed with some kind of resin or poly or something that acts as a binder to the fibers that are in the front, because this is cotton. So now look at this side. See how it's bumpier? That's the right side, the upside of the batting. And the reason you do that is because the scrim tends to fray your thread as you're pushing through it, okay? So in the fabric world, it would be a little like a sandpaper. And sometimes you can feel it's a little rougher, but so you don't want that hitting the needle first. Yes, your needle has to go through it, but it's not the first thing it hits. And then it has the rest of the soft fibers to help buffet it by the time it goes through the scrim. So the soft side, the more textured side up. And this would be the top of your quilt, okay? This would be the top. All right. Now, I didn't take the time to pre-base this. Just pretend it's pre-basted. You can pre-base it by spray adhesives, by big safety pins, or by taking thread, like a nice heavy thread that you stitch with great big sloppy stitches across, and you go down the center each way, and then you start going out every 4 or 5 inches, and take great big basting stitches to ensure that all the layers stay together, because your fabric will shift around, trust me, and where you didn't have any pleats or puckers, you will. Okay, so now, okay, now it's on. It looks reasonably smooth. Feel underneath, make sure, then rub your hands from under and on top, making sure it's smooth. The worst thing is, you know, you're going along, oh, it's looking so good, man, I'm a good quilter. And then you realize you've got a pleat in it. Ask me how I know. So, all right, so it's nice and smooth. One thing you'll notice, and this it applies to frame quilting as well as hand quilting, is that you don't want it tight. You don't want to bounce it like a drum. You don't want to bounce a quarter off of it. You just want it comfortably, like, see, I can take my, let me turn it, see how much give it has? That's what you want. All right. Now, then I have to find one of my betweens. And this is a tiny little between quilting needle. See how small it is? All right. Now I'm going to, when I first took that class, let me show you some supplies first. When I first took that class all those years ago, the first thing she had us do before she had us piece was she taught us how to hand quilt. Oh, in fact, look at this. Deb 1988. But see my sunflower? And here is a drawing that she handed us. And it's funny, there are prick marks in the back. So I guess if you wanted to put like a powder or something or run something over. But we had to draw it on with a light pencil, and then she taught us how to hand quilt. So this is 88, 98, 2008, 2018, 30 years old. Isn't that neat? 30 years old. Now, some of my quilting supplies, hand quilting supplies. All right. Here is beeswax. I prefer 100% beeswax or Thread Heaven, which they no longer make, but this is silicone. There is a new manufacturer making something similar. I was telling you about the John James between needles. This is size 10. Then I firmly believe in these wooden needle cases. This is a Collins needle case. You can get them for less than $2 a piece. And here's some more of my tailor's chalk that I like to use to mark. I have on, and in this case, one of the plastic thimbles, Dritz, I think they were made by Dritz, that you can put in boiling water. And I'm going to actually use some of this tape and show you how that works. So, okay, this is one of my containers. Thank goodness for Chinese food. It gives you the best containers. Here is a chalk marker, and you just run it along your fabric, and it leaves blue marks. Can you see that? All right. Now, quilting thread is usually heavier than piecing thread. So I have a blue, pink, yellow, gold. I have all of these. In fact, I've got a needle threaded. Woohoo, baby. All right. Then I have a soapstone marker. These work pretty good, but I tend to drop them and they break. So here's another soapstone marker. You supposedly can just brush it off. I've got water erasable. Now, I'm going to warn you about water erasable. One time I marked a really intricate hand-quilted pattern, and then it happened to be rainy. The weather was rainy for a couple of days, and when I went to quilt it, the pattern was gone. This will absorb humidity from the air and erase itself. So remember that water erase markers will disappear. Now, I have tried all kinds of chalk pencils with varying degrees of success. The ones I've had the best success with are these easy washout clothing marker or Dixon, and they always have the wood on them and a thick chalk lead in them, which is not really lead, you know. But there's all different kinds of quilters markers. And I love Clark's, Coats and Clark's quilting thread but there are people who love while, and nowadays looks like this. I've had this quilting thread for probably 30 years, just about. Now, anyway, let me put this container away and see what I've got in here, okay? In here, I've got a lead pencil and leads. And when they say leads, it's not really lead, it's graphite. Here is some more quilting thread. A button, needle threaders, which you tend to use a lot. And here's some more of that quilter's tape. All right. So then upstairs, I have got various stencils, because with hand quilting, a lot of times you'll use stencils and mark through. So now that I have this needle and thread, I'm going to show you how to make a knot. You take your needle and see how tiny it is. Take your needle, lay it on top. You put it on top of the thread. See that? Lay it on top. Then you take and wrap, going over, wrap the thread 3 times over the needle. Okay? 3 times over the needle. Then grab those 3 loops. Grab those 3 loops. Push the needle up with your finger. While this finger continues to hold onto it, gently pull your needle up and through until you get to the end of that thread and see the little knot. Isn't that neat? Now, if it was much longer than that, I would trim it. Trim the tail off, but I don't think I have to. All right. So now I'm going to mark. Okay, I'm going to mark a pattern on this fabric. I'll show you a couple things. All right, I'm going to mark a leaf, another leaf, and then some petals. All right. Then I'm going to draw a stem. That's where this tape comes in handy. If I can find the end of it. Oh boy, it's already 5 o'clock. Oh boy, I'm sorry about this. If y'all need to go, don't feel like you need to stay. What I love about this tape is like masking tape, but only 1/4 of an inch wide. And so I can take it and put it along here, along beside the stem, and kind of go around the corner with it and follow the stem shape like this. And then that way I can quilt along it and it'll keep me on the right path. You can also use it to do straight lines, like on the background if I want. All right, oops, I didn't mean to hit auto anything. What did I do? Hold on, guys. Oh, poo. I'll push OK. Where is OK? I'll push OK. All right. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to be sewing along this line, quilting along this line. So I want to come about 1/2 inch away from that line. So see, I'm 1/2 inch away. I come in between, in the batting, not through to the back, just in the batting, and come up where I want to start quilting. And then I pull the needle up, and I'm going to bury the knot. So what I do is I give it a little tug. There we go. You can feel it pop. You can hear it pop. Now the knot is buried in the batting. I come and I place the needle straight up, okay? I use my thimble. Underneath is my first finger, and it is sitting right at the end of the needle. I can feel it pricking my finger. I rock the needle back. I rock the needle upright again, go down. I rock it back. Whoops, took a little bit of a big stitch there. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. I think I was going through the tape. It made it a little difficult. Let's watch this again. You put the needle in the fabric, standing up like this. You put your thimble on it. I'm feeling it come through the bottom. I use my finger under there to push it up while I lean the needle back. Whoops. Then I'm trying to do this backwards, so please forgive me. I'm way back here behind it. See what I'm doing? Sometimes you have to help it a little. Then you rock your needle back up if you can, and back. Now these are kind of big because I can't even actually see where I'm stitching. I'm kind of just looking over the edge. All right, so here we go again. I push it through. I feel it with my underneath finger. That finger sends it back up as I rock the needle backwards. Then I rock it back upright and make sure I can actually feel it prick through. Then I rock it back. Then I rock it back up and back down and through. And like I said before, you don't have to have small stitches, but to have them uniform and to make sure they actually do come through the back of the fabric. That's why the underneath finger right there, you see me moving it, it does get pricked. So I'm making sure I can feel it prick through, then lean it back, then rock it back up, straight up. I can feel it prick through, so I help push it and rock the needle back. Whoops, that was a big one. Okay, I'm gonna pull through. All right. If I could see this better, but I'm kind of behind it looking down at it, but I want you to have the view. Okay, whoops, let me try this again. This is the hardest part for me is starting the stitch. And it's just a matter of putting the needle straight up and down, then using that thimble and rock. Whoops, I got a little bit of my skin with it. Rocking it back and forth. Now do you see why you need the fabric a little loose? Because you couldn't rock that fabric if it was taut. So what is beautiful is to actually see a video of a Mennonite woman quilting. They are so fast. I haven't done it. I haven't done any hand quilting for almost a year, so I'm very much out of practice. Yeah, see, I keep wanting to get under that tape. That's my problem. I can't see good enough. But let me just try it out here. Let's see. Okay, so you rock up, down, then rock it right back up without taking it out. Feel it prick underneath. This fabric, I don't know what it is. I know it's not good fabric. I think it's a polyester. It's hard. Okay. So, all right. See those? Those stitches are much better. And this is where I would put a grab it, which is one of those little rubber pads. I would grab it on this first finger would really, really help me. Now, you know what's funny is Alex Anderson uses the thimble, I think, on her thumb. I think she pushes the needle with her thumb. So that's neat. But whatever way works for you, just please know that the rocking method is the best. So lean it way back, push it through. Then lean it straight up, push it through. Then way back. Oh, this fabric, I'm having to puncture it. Don't use cheap fabric to show anything. All right, so I'm hoping that gives you some idea. Any questions you have? Honey, as long as your stitches are even, if you want to get your stitches smaller, it just takes time and practice. Now, one thing I want to show you is what do I do when I'm done with the stitching? So, here we go. I take and hold the thread where it comes out of the fabric, and I run the needle around and under and come up through this loop. Okay, you see that? Then I put my fingers inside that loop, but run my finger all the way down to the bottom of the stitching. Now this one, I didn't run my fingers good enough all the way down. There's the knot. So I'm going to do it again. So I'm holding this. I run the needle around and up through the loop, stick my fingers in the loop and hold right to the bottom. See how I'm holding down to the bottom of the fabric? And now there, much better. The stitch is right there. So sometimes I'll double it if I really want to make sure that knot doesn't come out, okay? So now I've got the double knot. I go back down right near that hole, but come up through the batting a ½ inch away. See how this is away from where I was stitching? Pull it and give it a snap. There we go. And the knot is now in the batting. Okay? So it's really pretty straightforward, really pretty simple. And when you just go around the edge, just make sure you've got a good stitch at the point before you come around, and you would come up and back the same way. You try not to stop and start any more than you have to. But you're seeing my stitches here. Let me cut this thread loose so you can see. But it's just practice. That's all it takes. And yes, does that go slowly? Yes, but it's the only way to get better at it. If you do the stitch and stab method, you never get better. Stitch and stab, you can only go so fast. But you can see my stitches there. Anyway, does that, if you have any questions? No, but your ending, as long as you get it in the batting, your traveling thread, thank you, because that's the right term. The traveling thread will not show. Now, if you had red or blue, it's tricky, but make sure you get it, in that case, try to make sure you get it under the batting, but not, because you don't care if it shows through the back. Now, I'm going to take this off, and let's see how my stitches did on the back. Did my finger feel them? Did I do a good enough job in making sure I was all the way through? Let me get this out of the way, and let's see what the back looks like. Aha, I did good. I got them through the back. You see? And some people say, oh, well, the stitches have to be even in the back. That's pretty impossible to do. There's a bigger stitch. There's a smaller stitch. I think, honestly, if you just get the stitch to come through, like here, I see one little tiny catch there, but nothing right there. So, and that all just comes with time and practice. Going back to the front, there are my stitches. And you could see I couldn't see with that tape, so my stitches kind of went wonky. It's supposed to help you do it straight, but I was sitting looking over, whoops, I was sitting trying to look down at what I was doing, so it wasn't the best. But it just takes practice. And so I'm going to, hold on. So here I'm going to show you one more time how to do this knot, okay? And this is how I do all my knots, not just for quilting. I have my needle. Try to get my hands down under it. Good, okay. I have my needle. And here's my first finger, and I put the needle on top of that thread, whoops, and I wrap it 3 times around the needle. Then with this hand, I grab that wrapped thread. I just unthreaded my needle. But you can see how I actually did do the wrapping. See it? There it is. 1, 2, 3 wraps. Okay, let me see. It only helps you to do it straight if you put it on straight. I'm bad at straight lines. Yeah, that's why I like that tape. If you don't stretch the tape, it will put a straight. In fact, I'll show you real quick. That's something I can definitely show you. But that was the tape I was showing you. What to do with it? That was the tape I was showing you last week that was all tangled. So let me get this back out. But if you didn't have this thin tape, then you could use masking tape. All right, so here is the tape. This has paper on the back, so this is kind of different. Okay, let me take the paper off. Come on. Come on. It's going to prove me to be a liar, I think. Oh, I found my other tape. Okay, well, I was getting the paper off of that, but let me try this. Go back to this. I found it. All right. So when you take it off, what you have to do is try to keep from stretching it, okay? So here's the tape. And just hold it a little bit taut and lay it down. And then you can press it once it's down. And see, that's a lot straighter. You can see where it puckered at the end, where it started to go a little crooked. If that happens, just lift it up again and lay it down again. See? So that really helps to do straight lines. Okay. I did it on the curved stem just to kind of use the tape, but that's not my preference. If you have, you could probably would have done better just to follow the marking. But okay. I'm going to have to get ready and say goodbye, but I thought if I could get this threaded quickly, I could show you some stitches that I do while I'm actually looking at it. And one thing I saw on the Quilt Show newsletter that if you lick the finger that goes behind the thread will more easily come through the hole. But I've never been able to figure out exactly what they meant. And have you seen the one where the person lays the thread in their palm? Let me see if I can remember how she did it. Something like this. Lays it in their palm and then runs the needle, the head of the needle over it. And somehow it ends up threading it. But when I tried it, it made my palm raw before I got it to actually jump into the needle hole. So, well, maybe I won't be able to get it. One of my eyes. Have you ever had your eyes do that little weird thing? Yeah, I can't get it. Well, anyway, yeah, you use the palm method. I saw the woman in the tape do it, but honest to goodness, I tried and it made my palm raw. So I think I covered everything today. And thank you especially to the ladies who came early and gave me some much needed sympathy after my dog tried to kill my bird. And they didn't really try to kill it. I mean, when I came in the room, he was sitting 1.5 feet from it, just looking at it like, why aren't you playing? And the bird was like, I don't think I can play. I think I'm dying. But poor thing had all its tail feathers pulled out. And I can just imagine it was fluttering around. They were trying to stop it so they could just see it. Oh, and you know what? I still had this thimble on. That's what I was telling you. They're so comfortable. They're so comfortable that I'll get in the shower and be washing my hair and go, oh, I got my thimble on. So, but they are very comfortable. And anytime if they get loose or they start being too tight, just put them in the boiling water again for 30 seconds and put it back on your finger real quick. She did get a haircut. I don't think she'll be flying for a while. I haven't had her wings clipped yet, but I think we're going to have to do that. But now that I know she's better, I got to tell you this story. It was so cute. And if you have to go, I don't mean to keep holding you here. It's the cutest story. Okay, so I have a cockatiel who I've had for 8 years. His name is Finny. And then I call her Kiwi. And she's a green cheek conure. Cute as a button. Love her. And she and I've had a breakthrough. And, she just loves to play with me. Loves to play with me. So I'm real tickled. And so one day I set them up and I thought, they've been sitting each day. I would take them in for about 3 or 4 hours and let them sit in their own cages together, but beside each other. So I thought, I think I can let them meet now. Let's see what happens. So I opened up her door and faced her cage right to his cage and opened up his door. So it gave him a path through, and then opened up his top door so that he didn't feel trapped in his cage, because I knew she'd go in his cage first. And she went right in his cage and wanted to see him. She would love to come up and just rub all up against him and give him a kiss. And he's like, I'm not sure yet, because he's been alone for 8 years and he's not used to this. But before the playtime was over, he was in her cage checking out her toys and her food, because they always want to know, what's the other one eating? They might have better stuff. And she was in his cage playing with all his toys and then checking out his food and eating some of the things she liked. I got so tickled. And see, I had the dogs put away then. I was smart. Or I just had paid attention. I was too scatterbrained. But anyway, and then before they were all done playing, he took some flights around the room and flew to me. And she tried to take some flights, but she has been trimmed. It's just she's able to fly some. She tried to fly and thought, I can't fly like him. But I can tell that he's awfully happy to have her in the house. And she's thrilled there's another bird. It's funny how they know their own kind. I mean, because she doesn't know what she looks like, but she knows a bird is what she is somehow. So, well, is there any questions I can answer for you before we go? And I want to thank you for tuning in again. I love these Sundays. I love these Sundays. Honey, I'm not going to tell. You know how I said I wasn't going to buy fabric until October? Probably because I'm buying bird toys left, right, and center. I've now got Chewy.com on auto ship. So all of them, her and Finny, have gotten all kinds of new toys. And I went on eBay where you can get them from China, and they're gorgeous, and there's so many of them. So, I just checked and make sure that they're supposed to be bird safe colors and stuff. But so cute. So cute. And I think I need to go help Mark move the new wash machine into place, because I told him I would help him. I don't hear anything going on, so he probably got it in as far as he could and then is waiting for me to help. But thank y'all for tuning in, and hopefully I'll have clean clothes next week and a happy bird who's just missing some tail feathers. But, and one day I'm going to make a video where I take you out and show you my chickens. They are a hoot. They are so funny. So I've got plenty still to show you, along with the little quilting too. All right, well, take care, loves. And y'all do my heart so good. Being here to talk with you today has helped me so much. And I'm not sure where Mark is, because I'm not hearing any more movement. So I do think he's just waiting for me to come out and help him, because he couldn't move that wash machine. It was full of water. So you have a great week too. I promise, I'm going to do the giveaway of the pattern in our Yahoo group. And Bonnie, I need to get your address again, because somewhere I have it, but it's under who knows what. So I'll get your address again. And we will do the giveaway on the Yahoo site. If any of you want to join us on our Yahoo site, we have a lot of fun. And between Bonnie and Pat and all the free patterns galore, Michelle gives us tips and patterns. And we have a lot of good fun. So just, I will put the address that you send me your email, and I'll sign you up for our Yahoo group. Thank you, Melissa. Mwah! Thank you for joining. I can't wait. We're going to have a party in November. So we'll have a good time. Oh, and you know what, Bonnie? Maybe I'll play, if you want, I'll get somebody to play Quilt Bingo for you. So send me 6 fat quarters and we'll play for you. Take care, everybody. And I'll see you this week. I plan to have some videos out. And I'll see you next Sunday at 3 o'clock. Bye-bye. Mwah. Bye-bye. Have a great week, guys. And do something to feed your soul. Feed your soul. I know I will. I need it. Bye-bye, guys. Y'all the best. Mwah.